Good morning, everyone. This is Regina Curry, and I wanted to do this podcast on reparations. In July of 2021, I contacted Sheila Jackson Lee. My interest was HR 40. I wrote a blog about it, reparations, some time ago and it's on my website, Pearlppd.com. If you go over there to check out the blog, please pick up my book, Mark the Beginning of the End. It's real, it's true, it's good, and I am pushing for this to be the first Christian superhero. And you can check out the blog on reparations there as well. And so when I heard about Sheila Jackson Lee leading this bill, I contacted her. And this is a copy of the response I received from her office. I thought maybe I can contact her and maybe get an interview or something about HR 40. Actually, Representative John Conyers, he was a Democrat who represented Michigan, now deceased. He sponsored HR 40. But I really, I have a question about this statement. On 3/8/2018, assuming first sponsorship, Ms. Jackson Lee asks unanimous consent that she may hereafter be considered as the first sponsor of HR 40, a bill originally introduced by former Representative Conyers for purposes of adding co-sponsors and requesting reprintings pursuant to Clause 7 of agreed to without objection. So this stood out to me because it appears as if she is truly interested in the Black American plight in America. Sheila Jackson Lee's parents are actually immigrants from Jamaica. So that makes her like a first generation African American, but not really eligible, I don't think, for reparations from the United States. She might have been, or her family might have been victims of the slave trade and taken to Jamaica. That's highly possible. However, I think that their Jamaican government or that government there would be the proper people to repair their breaches, but not necessarily the United States. So I thought that was interesting how she wanted to be the first sponsor of this bill. So reparations actually, in my opinion, belong to Black Americans, you know, whose lineage basically began with the slave trade to the Americas. You know, we were actually taken to all the Americas, all three. So I do understand that, but I do believe that if anybody, wants to go after reparations for their descendants, they need to go to their particular government where they were taken. You have Africans who were taken to South America, Central America, and North America. So when I say the three Americas, that's what I'm talking about. There are three Americas. And we were taken to all three.
And as I close, I need you to take a look at what I offered to put into the record. This was our life, the back of a beaten slave. This was our life into the 20th century, hangings of African Americans, men and women. This was our life. This was our life. When we were in public display, brutalized. Our life was also the Tulsa riots, where 300 African Americans were buried in an unmarked grave. And so, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent for those pictures of lynching that continued.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Most of the colleagues of this House know that I have introduced H.R. 40, the Commission to Study Slavery and Develop Reparation Proposals, which can be defined as repairing. I read to my colleagues an assessment of the UN Human Rights Chief in a landmark report launched after the killing of George Floyd in the United States, urging countries worldwide to do more to help end discrimination, violence, and systemic racism against people of African descent, and to make amends to them, including reparations. That word strikes fear in most people's hearts and minds because they don't take a moment to understand what ending systemic racism and institutional racism is or what repairing is. Repairing is a global concept. It means that if you've been harmed or there is something broken, you fix it. When you think about racism in the United States, it is something broken. There are many ways to address it. Dealing with education and healthcare, dealing with the economy of people who have an enormous wealth gap, but breaching the gap and bringing people together. I ask my colleagues for us to move forward on H.R. 40 because it is a healing amendment, a healing legislation, and it will bring Americans together. I yield back.
For what purpose?
I do believe the theory that many of the Black Americans in the United States were in America were seized from a place called Negro Land. And maybe throughout all the Americas in actuality. And it's an area now, it's just known as West Africa, I think Guinea. But at one time it was called Negro Land in very old ancient maps, as you can see here. So the fact that we were called Negroes, at first I thought that was just because it was a color. And so, I had no idea that there was a place called Negro Land. And now that I know that, I do believe that we are connected to that land, especially because we were called Negroes when we were brought over here.
Bought and sold, often treated brutally, theirs was a hard life.
In 1789, a machine called the cotton gin had been invented.
Cotton was such an important part of the plantation system that it came to be called king cotton. The enormous amount of hand labor required to grow and pick the cotton was supplied by great numbers of slaves. This, then, was the economic background of the plantation.
Cotton is the most important cash crop in the United States.
And much of the wealth still comes from one crop, cotton. Most of the workers are Negroes who live on the plantation.
The first slaves left Africa for the colony of Virginia in 1619. In 1700, Mr. Thomas Starks, a slave dealer in London, directed the captain of the ship Africa to take on a cargo of 400. He included the typical admonition, make your Negroes cheerful and pleasant. Make them dance to the beat of your drum. By 1727, there were 75,000 blacks in the North American colonies. By 1790, there were 10 times that number. By 1800, there were over 1 million. Blacks into nearly 19% of the population of the United States.
Also, have you guys ever heard of the story that we were sold out by our own people in Africa? They sold us out to the slave trade. Well, could it be that they knew that we were not originally from that part of Africa? Could it be that they knew we were the Israelites leaving out of Israel, Jerusalem, under Titus in like 70 AD, I think it was? And so I think that when it comes to reparations, which I fully believe we should get, the Native Black Americans in this country, I do believe that we should make sure that there's a distinction between the Negro or ADOS or Black Americans as opposed to African Americans, because Sheila Jackson Lee, for example, would be an African American.
some of our things.
Tell me when to go.
I'm going to start today.
So hi, I have somebody here. This is Regina Curry from Pearlppd, and I have somebody here from ADOS. Can you tell us a little bit about ADOS and what you believe in?
Right, well, first of all, my name is John Lloyd, and I'm ADOS from Philly. Even is reparations for American descendants of slavery.
And so how many branches do you have, or are you stationed in Philadelphia solely?
Check. It's Markel here with Pearlppd. I'm standing here with, give us your name, sir.
Yeah, my name is Sharice Sheffield.
Tell us about this get-up. Obviously, it's a representation of a slave, but tell us what it actually is.
Well, this is Lost Man Shaming of America. And what I do, I go around the country. I speak at universities, I speak at high schools, I speak all across the country and internationally about how American has degraded and tortured our people. And so this right here is just another way of United States have shown that they don't care nothing about black folks. 1866 law that they're trying to overturn because they want another white organization to be strong in finance.
I like it. So one thing I'm big on is action. So while you're doing this to demonstrate what they're doing in America, tell us what action you have in place to help us overcome.
Well, my action is I speak for those who can't speak for themselves. That's the Sheffield Care, and also have a radio program called Freedom Fighters of the DMV. I give people knowledge about our history. I let them know what's going on about current events and past events that cause atrocity to our people. We are the original Holocaust people on this planet.
Okay, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it, sir. Keep up the good work.
Hey, can I get
even President Obama, former President Barack Obama, he would be an African American, So, and his mom was European, so there was no descendancy of slavery in this country. And so that's going to be very tricky. So anyway, I'm making this podcast basically because I contacted her and I am waiting for an answer. And so I'm asking you guys to like, subscribe, share, get it out there for anybody who, like me, really is interested in reparations and where it's going. Oh, let me also say this. Sheila Jackson Lee, when you look at HR 40, she had so many co-sponsors. There was 195, I think, and like several states who joined and signed this bill. And so she presented this on the floor. It's in an awesome place for us to push. It's in an awesome place for us to push. That's one problem that I did have with the Congressional Black Caucus, is that we are so represented in this country. We're always we're always saying how the black plight is so terrible, this, that, and the other. But we are so highly represented with the Congressional Black Caucus and the people who are in the House of Representatives and so on and so forth. So why are we in this plight? Anyway, that's another whole story. I did something on the Congressional Black Caucus on my website too, so you can check it out. This bill, this HR 40, is in a great place, and I want to know what's going on. I want to talk to Sheila Jackson Lee. I want to see where she's going with this, because I haven't heard anything, and I see her fighting for social justice and everything recently. But what about reparations? And what are these co-sponsors going to do about it? Because you definitely co-sponsored this bill. So you should be ready to sign in its completion. And I have a lot of ideas. Yeah. So America has given reparations before, because I'm going to show you a couple of people who got reparations from the United States. That's going to kind of cause you to think a little bit. There would be no United States of America without slaves. And we have not been repaired. We have not been prepared for that. And I do believe it's time. I just think it's time for us to push. And hopefully you can join me. I hear a lot of people talking about it, but I have not heard anyone mention Sheila Jackson Lee, which is the person who has the bill. So if any talk should be directed to Sheila Jackson Lee.